All right, now the countdown to India's parliamentary polls has begun. The Election Commission of India will in fact announce the schedule for the Lok Sabha elections at 5 p.m. this evening. That's in roughly less than 120 minutes from now. And once the poll dates are announced, the Model Code of Conduct will come into effect. And this means that everything starting from the political advertising to campaigning and the general conduct of the political parties and the leaders will come under intense scrutiny of the Election Commission. Now, the tenure of the current Lok Sabha ends on the 3rd of June this year. So the Election Commission of India expected to announce the election dates at 5 p.m. today. The Model Code of Conduct for all political parties will come into effect as soon as the election dates are put out. Now, the Election Commission's Model Code of Conduct is in fact a set of guidelines which regulate the political parties and politicians prior to the elections. Now, the Model Code of Conduct also ensures that the ruling party does not get an unfair advantage over other parties. The Model Code of Conduct remains in effect till the election results are announced. Now, the Model Code of Conduct has several provisions pertaining to the general conduct, campaigning, election manifestos, party in power, etc. So as soon as the Code of Conduct kicks in, the party in power cannot use its official position for campaigning. No policy or scheme can be announced by the government to influence voting behavior. No advertising at the cost of the public exchequer. Official mass media of the state cannot be used for publicity. Official visits and campaigning cannot be combined. There cannot be any discrimination in making public spaces available for campaigning. There cannot, and this is very significant, there cannot be ad hoc appointments in government or public undertakings to influence voters. And also considering the charged nature in terms of which the Indian elections actually are held, there cannot be any communal or caste sentiments that can be invoked to try and lure voters to vote in a certain way. Temples, mosques, churches, etc. cannot be used for election propaganda. No bribes or intimidation can be used to influence voters. No public meetings in the 48 hours before the closing of polls. Now, if any party or politician is found in violation of the Code of Conduct, then the Election Commission of its own or on a basis of a complaint can issue a notice to the individual found flouting the guidelines.
आज ये लोकसभा चुनाव जो अब कभी भी घोषित होगा, उसका मुख्य मुद्दा है कि देश को सुरक्षित कौन रखेगा, और देश भर में उसका उत्तर है नरेंद्र मोदी। आज ये लोकसभा चुनाव जो अब कभी भी घोषित होगा, उसका मुख्य मुद्दा है कि देश को सुरक्षित कौन रखेगा, और देश भर में उसका उत्तर है नरेंद्र मोदी।
All right, let's also listen in to former Parliamentary Affairs Minister Pawan Bansal as to what he had to say about the election dates announcement. All right, there seems to be a bit of an issue with playing that soundbite. We'll try and get that soundbite for you. But meanwhile, we are joined in by our senior political affairs editor, Karthikeya Sharma, who is joining us live from our studios in New Delhi. Good afternoon to you, Karthikeya. A very significant announcement is expected at 5 p.m. today. In less than 120 minutes from now, the election dates for the big election 2019 will be put out by the Election Commission of India.
I think the bigger news which is coming is that today at 6:45 p.m. there will be a press conference of the State Election Commissioner in Jammu.
Right.
Which means that in all likelihood, simultaneous elections will take place in Jammu and Kashmir. Both Mehbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah had been calling for immediate elections so that the governor's rule can be done away with. Which means that by getting political players in, the political, I would say, resolution of certain vexed administrative and political issues may take place. So with Jammu Kashmir, I would say Andhra, Odisha and Sikkim will also undergo simultaneous polls.
I think that's a very significant announcement expected later on this evening post the press briefing by the Chief Election Commissioner. Now, Karthikeya, the question that of course I would like to ask you is, do we have any information at all whether this election in Jammu and Kashmir that is due will it be held along with the general elections?
You know, there might be some changes in the date, but for the Election Commission to go for a press conference, it is a clear signal that they are going to announce the schedule. Because if you don't want to announce the schedule, why will you do a press conference? You don't do a press conference not to announce a schedule or to say that I'm not going to announce the schedule. So the central schedule will be announced by the Central Election Commission here, which is Election Commission of India. You have the state bodies also, which is State Election Commission, and they will go into the scheduling of the Jammu and Kashmir, which is a very good development.
Absolutely indeed, Karthikeya. Do continue to stay on with us. I'm told that we're also joined in by former Chief Election Commissioner T.S. Krishnamurthy, who's joining us over the phone line. Sir, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast from Wion. And let me begin by asking you, this announcement that is expected to be made, this is going to be an incredibly and important election. What can we expect in terms of the announcements that are expected to be made later on this evening?
Well, I do not want to hazard a guess about the schedule, but all that I can say is this election is going to be more challenging. So
right.
I find there is more, hatred, violence, and probably use of money power. I'm only worried that the Election Commission will have a big challenge in ensuring that it is a peaceful, fair, and free elections.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. And also, one of the things, sir, that I'd like to ask you is, last time round, the year 2014, it was said that, almost 100 million voters had in fact been added and they were to take part in the elections. How much more voters can we expect will be added, and how much of a challenge will it be for the Election Commission to actually try get all of those voters to the polling booths so that they cast their vote?
As far as the Election Commission is concerned, it is always keen to ensure that maximum voting participation takes place. So I have no doubt that the Election Commission, taking note of the increase in the voter numbers, will ensure more polling stations if necessary. If necessary, they will also ensure that the monitoring of these polling stations is done more effectively, so that they have more central police forces to ensure that all the polling stations are effectively guarded and effectively protected from any violence or hatred.
And this, of course, will be the biggest democratic exercise that takes place anywhere in the world, sir, and you are the helm of affairs. How difficult is it to actually carry out this electoral process of the general elections in a smooth and a very fair manner, considering that, in recent years there have been questions that have been raised about the electronic voting machines. This time, of course, there will be the VVPAT machines which will also be used. So this time around, how much of a challenge will it be in ensuring that there is a smooth carrying on with the election process?
Every election is a challenge to the Election Commission. Only thing is, over the period of time, the number of parties, the number of voters, they all increase. So you have to ensure that, it is free and fair. The second point is about the electronic voting machines. More than once, it has been convincingly proved by the actual performance and the Election Commission that they are very credible. In order to ensure that the political parties have more respect for this, they have introduced the VVIP. So, though in my opinion, VVIP is not even necessary.
Right.
These machines are highly credible. There are enough safeguards in the machine, and I don't think it can be tampered with by anybody. But be that as it may, the Election Commission has chosen to introduce more VVIP to VVPAT for the purpose of more polling stations, so that the political parties have more faith in the system. So I take it that the electronic voting machine will be the most successful winner in this election. There is no doubt about it. And the political parties should avoid hatred and violence and try to conduct themselves in a manner that India is proud of the electoral system.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, and the other aspect that I would like to ask you about is, the election dates for the state of Jammu and Kashmir are also expected to be announced. How much of a challenge will this be in carrying out the electoral process in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, considering the recent turmoil that we've seen in the state?
As far as the Jammu and Kashmir election is concerned, it is indeed a very important challenge to the Election Commission. In fact, the schedules will be very carefully carved out. But what is more important is, in my own experience, except for the militant interference, the Jammu and Kashmir election has not been a major problem. It is to ensure that the election, the militants do not interfere with the election process. As far as those who want to boycott the elections during my time, they did announce about boycotting, but we said we have a right to boycott, but we cannot prevent anybody from exercising their vote, and it went off peacefully.
Right.
So I have reasons to believe that Election Commission in Jammu and Kashmir, though is very critical and crucial from the point of view of security,
Right.
it will go on without much of a problem.
Absolutely indeed. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us on this broadcast on Wion and getting us the latest in terms of how this election process will be carried out. Now, this of course, is the huge development that we expect. The announcement that we expect will be made at 5 p.m. this evening. And also there's another press conference that will be made by the State Election Commissioner of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, where an announcement on the elections in the state of Jammu and Kashmir is also expected to be made.